I'm Steve Mauro, Director of Sales at Brooks Equipment. In this video series, we are talking to the next generation of the fire and life safety industry. We ask them what's working, what isn't, and what they are doing to sustain their FED business. Today with me is Anna Gavin. Anna is President of FireLine Corporation in Baltimore, Maryland. Anna, good to see you, and thanks for being on with us today.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Well, let's get right into it. Can you tell me or tell us the moment or the time when you knew that you wanted to be in the fire life safety industry, just like your family?
Yeah, I actually had an interesting introduction into it. I mean, obviously, I grew up in the business. I'm third generation. So I grew up looking at fire extinguisher tags, at the age of 4. But really hadn't intended on working in the fire and life safety industry. I worked at FireLine during college as just the, working for my dad's company kind of job. Got a little more involved in it, started to find some things that I liked about it, but hadn't really intended on doing it. And then in late 2000s, like 2009, 2008, my grandfather passed and he was in his 90s. He had founded the company and was still coming in up until his 90s into the office. And then my father had been running it since the early 80s. And so I was helping my father with it and working in the business, not really intending that to be the long-term plan. And then in 2009, my father passed and we went from having 2 owners of the company to no owners of the company and founders. And so there was no one else in the family working in the business and it was pretty much on me to figure it out. And so I kind of had to do it by default. It was December 2009. It was not a great time to be taking over a business in the middle of a recession, but we had a really great team and really supportive staff. And so just kind of by default, I did it. But I would say it was, and my mother was kind of like, oh, we'll probably, don't worry, we'll just keep it going long enough and then we'll sell the company and just when it's not so, so much of a crisis. And it wasn't 2 months in, I think it was like, he passed in December. And I think by February, maybe, I looked at her, I was like, we're not selling the business. I love this. And I'm committed at this point. I'm making promises to people. I'm making plans. I have ideas. I'm seeing kind of the appeal of working in this industry and why it was, why it was such a passion for my father. So it was about February 2010. That was the moment.
Oh, that's impressive. And you've done a great job for sure. Well, that brings me to the next question. Due to the fire and life safety business being primarily male dominant, what advice would you tell other women wanting to enter this industry and how could they best succeed?
Yeah, I actually, I really find being a woman in this industry is a huge advantage. One, you're a little bit more memorable when you go to these industry meetings. It's kind of hard because a lot of the guys' names are Bob and Steve and Dave and Dan, and you kind of get a little confused by them, but the women always stand out. So, I always see it as an advantage. I would say if you're a woman in this industry, the one thing you should do more than anything else is just say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, even if you are just going to be the token female on something, which I feel like I was sometimes, but that's okay because I ended up learning a lot. Ended up meeting a lot of people. I got asked to join a lot of boards and a lot of committees. And I think it was because, they were looking at it and saying, we need to have a woman's voice on this board. But when I got in there, it was a huge opportunity for me too. I got to hear the behind the scenes of what was going on in the industry and code and different associations. And it really helped educate me as well. I've really learned a lot in that process as well. So saying yes when you get invited to things, even if you don't feel like you're qualified for it, which I definitely felt like I wasn't at times, but I actually had a lot to offer and I was pretty surprised by that. And I learned a lot as well and met a lot of people.
Well, what technology have you implemented and pushed for your company to use?
So that was actually one of the biggest things I had to really invest in when I first took over. We knew technology was important. Everything from the back infrastructure, the server rooms and pushing things up into the cloud. Microsoft 365 was a big investment. So that was a big part of it. But for us, it was really our entire ERP system, our software system was one that I joke with people, I say it looked like an Atari video game. It was a little bit old and dated. And so that needed to change big time. And that's a huge investment because it touched every piece of our business, whether it was the warehouse and inventory, to the accounting system, to the ticketing, to the customer navigation.
And what were some of the challenges with the technology you had?
One was just really changing the process that we entered information. A lot of our data entry was on the back end. Techs would turn in the paperwork and we'd have to type it all up and bill it. With the new system, the data entry is on the front end and everything's processed on the front end. So when the techs are done with the ticket, we can process it within 24 hours, frankly, within an hour. So the people's roles had to change. We had to redefine what a biller was, redefine what contract entry was. So that was a challenge. Let's put it this way, the week we went live with the new system, I had a masseuse come in and offer massages. I had the omelet guy come and give omelets. I was definitely like, please don't leave me, hang in there. It's going to be tough for like a whole month, but we're going to get through it. And we did. And they were great, but it was tough. It was tough at times.
That sounds like you have some good memories from that.
Yeah.
I can imagine how stressful that could be at times. What are a few things next generation leaders need to focus on to keep the fire and life safety industry healthy?
So I'm a huge advocate for the soft skills. I think that's the thing that's neglected the most in our industry. Not as much anymore. It was before, though. People were often promoted because of technical competency. This is the most senior technician, therefore he's going to be the supervisor next. Well, that doesn't mean he's the best supervisor. We all know that, right? Like the best managers are not necessarily the best salesperson, right? It has to do with those soft skills and those touch points that you have with people that are really, truly people that understand how to communicate. So we actually invest in, I used to do a class, now I actually teach it myself, called Next Generation Leadership. And we, identify those individuals who are going to be the next generation leaders or are already in those roles, but they don't have those soft skills. So we teach everything from like email etiquette to how to handle conflict, to managing and understanding the different personality types that are out there and different communications and behavioral types that are out there. Understanding the why of things. I love TED Talks, so we watch a couple of those. Really understanding what a true leader does and how a true leader leads. And so we really have looked at that as being the pieces that have always been kind of glossed over in the past, or we just hope people just get it. And while some do, a lot of people, nobody ever shows them. So how are they supposed to know that if you don't teach it to them?
I get it. That leads into my next question. When it comes to hiring, how do you ensure a good technician hire and how do you retain them?
It's great because we've had really good hires the past few years. I just have been just blown away by the hires we've had. And I got to tell you, 85% of our hires have been referrals. So when we're hiring, a lot of what we're looking for is these little tells on how do they communicate. It's not just their technical competency, right? We can inspect that. We can give them a quiz. We can take them up to a panel and have them look at a panel and try and program it. It's also just how do they talk about their experiences in life? What do they like? What are they interested in? What's their experiences that they enjoyed the most with other companies and that they hated the most? But honestly, we've just been training up a lot of people.
All those things you're doing, it must be working because we know your company's growing and we hear really good things about it. Well, Anna, thank you for your time and thank you for coming on and talking with us. We wish you the very best and FireLine the very best. To everyone listening out there, we thank you and hope that you found this interview helpful. And if you're a next generation in the fire and life safety industry, we want to talk to you also. Email us at marketingsupport@brooksequipment.com. Thank you.